Hello, all. Welcome to this vodcast from the TIAC, the Telecoms Intelligent Automation Council. It's now well established that telcos must adapt automation technologies to survive. While telcos have adopted these technologies at various levels to automate their business and operations support systems, the use of automation tools, specifically robotic process automation, RPA, to enable efficiencies subsequent to merger acquisition is not an obvious use case. Today's vodcast is centered around the automation activities around the merger of Sprint and T-Mobile in early 2020 and the development of the Orbit app that enabled T-Mobile to integrate with Sprint's back-end legacy systems and automate approval of their customer initiative process. I'd like to introduce the participants in today's vodcast. We have Brian Hodel from T-Mobile. Brian is principal developer for Power Platform for T-Mobile. As a business analyst and solutions architect, he has extensive experience in utilizing Lean Six Sigma and a toolbox of technology skills to define problems and develop solutions in a fast-paced business environment. Brian has been instrumental in building the Orbit app, which is used by team members, project leads, and executives to approve all new initiatives across the company, such as device promotions, service offers, and more. It uses Power Apps, Canvas, and model-driven apps, Power Automate, Power BI, Dataverse, and integrates with Microsoft Teams. The app has been running in production since February 2020 and has supported a growth of 150% each year, with a total 800% increase in go-to-market initiatives without the need to add additional resources. Also on today's panel is Rody Kirk. Rody is Director of Specialist Sales Executive, Global Black Belt Dynamics Business Applications and Power Platform. He is the Global Black Belt for the telco vertical at Microsoft in the Americas. Microsoft Global Black Belt leaders are leaders in a global virtual team responsible for geographic resource management and execution. And he focuses on expanding and deepening relationships and satisfaction in building a compelling strategy for the client. We also have Dave Milton from Microsoft. Dave is the Americas Director for Microsoft's Power Platform Global Black Belt team, helping large enterprises achieve more using low code. He's got 20 years of experience in the Microsoft Business Applications universe, having designed and deployed solutions for customers ranging from special operations forces to Antarctic scientists and everything in between. With a development background and professional service development, he evangelizes to both citizen and pro developers alike who are looking to help their organizations digitally transform. And finally, we have Dr. Basit, Chief Operating Officer for TIAC, Telecoms Intelligent Automation Council, a not-for-profit organization to support telcos navigate through the adoption of AI, machine learning, and automation technology for greater efficiencies. He's also a consultant director for Mercurial Minds, a digitization company. To begin, let's go ahead and start with Brian. So Brian, tell us about the use case, which is the centerpiece of this discussion. Please give us a precise description of the Orbit use case that you implemented. What were the challenges from an interdepartmental perspective, given that you had to deal with people who a month earlier were in two different organizations with different processes and different cultures?
Right. The integration of two companies is always going to be a challenge. In our case, process, tools, cultures vary greatly between T-Mobile and Sprint. And a request for a new device launch, service offer, or promotion, or really anything that has a customer impact, it needs to follow a complex process. And those processes varied between the two different organizations. In the merger, we needed to find a way to bridge those tools that were used independently on those different organizations, and to bring them together. In doing so, we were able to bring the Sprint side into use the Orbit application by utilizing the RPA robotic process automation tools in Power Automate, which is specifically Power Automate Desktop. by building flows to create and update records in the Sprint system. That allowed us to uh, move a lot of the Sprint operations people into one intake and one management system, so that our reports and data were pulled from one place, and they had one intake without really disrupting a lot of the cultural norms that they had. So that they had a lot of input on what we did, and forming those processes out. Without having to move off of their legacy systems in an expedited manner.
Excellent. Thank you. Dr. Basit, I'm curious, what about this use case interests you the most?
The traditional understanding of automation within the telco sector covers automation within the BSS, the business support system, and the OSS, which is the operational support system. Now, this use case is unique because it's about automation within the mergers and acquisitions domain. And for someone who's providing automation consultancies to the C-suite, one of the biggest challenges is providing the digital mindset. That is, making the C-suite see the organization, the functions, the processes within the digital lens. And so, therefore, automation, which aids and develops the synergies being targeted from the acquisition and mergers, then puts this use case exactly where we want it, which is for the C-suite to see how automation, if it can help achieve the synergies within the mergers and acquisition domain, by definition, it can provide so much more within the BSS and OSS and those domains. So it actually helps build that digital mindset that we want within the C-suite.
Great. Rody, I'd like to bring you in. Coming from Microsoft, they obviously consider all possible features to support a rapid deployment of the RPA bots, but also across a wide spectrum of use cases. The mergers and acquisitions domain is a unique one. How do you see this trend developing in the future? And has there been any other deployments of this nature in your knowledge? And if yes, could you give us some brief descriptions observing the necessary sensitivities?
Thank you. Coming from Microsoft, we obviously do consider all possible features to support rapid development of the RPA bots, but also across a wide spectrum of use cases in M&A and strategic events and other types of activities, strategic activities that go inside the organization. So Microsoft's Power Platform is not just about RPA. It is a set of natively integrated low-code tools that enable us to create and manage apps, automate workflows, create intelligent chatbots. It's an entire ecosystem of low-code where you may need a screwdriver, you may need a hammer, may need a drill. You just don't know when you're about to design something. And so we have everything covered under the realm of Power Platform. So this year, Microsoft introduced something called Copilot, which is basically AI. It's based on ChatGPT. It's a AI-powered productivity tool built into Power Platform that combines the power of large language models with your organization's data to enhance creativity, productivity, and skills in Power Apps, Power Pages, Power Virtual Agents, and Power Automate. So basically, we're leveraging Copilot to help the creator of the app, of the solution, to ramp up quickly and without having to have a lot of technical knowledge, leverage languages to tell the solution, what do you want to build today? And it will translate that into actionable steps. So each component can be used individually or together to generate a comprehensive solution. In the realm of corporate strategic events, M&A was a more common theme in past years, but we're also witnessing divestitures, which also introduces a different set of challenges. For example, AT&T divested a media organization last year. And now that media organization, which had low code from the AT&T parent organization, they're having to spin off and basically reestablish their center of excellence. And then from within that environment, to spin up all their low code apps and solutions that they have for their organization. So telecom companies merge for various reasons. Some of the reasons include prioritizing their core telecom businesses through unique markets, capacity or geographic scaling, and divestiture of assets unrelated to the core business. Some companies also focus on infrastructure buys, while others focus on expanding their own telecom services. The telecom industry has experienced rapid convergence to appeal to the digital age and is expected to continue to benefit from the rapid development of next generation mobility, Internet of Things, connected cars, smart roads, smart cities, bridges. And the bigger focus now is to expand their B2B portfolio of services as it represents another promising segment of their industry. So all of this represent opportunity for low code development. We'll see strategic M&A activity start to pick up again later in 2024.
Excellent. Thank you. Dr. Basit, can you help us understand that how does this use case fit into the TIAC space?
You see, this use case is different as it falls within the ambit of hyperautomation. Now, Gartner coined this term hyperautomation, which is basically a business-driven discipline that organization use to rapidly identify, vet, and automate as many business processes across the organization. And in many cases, it involves the establishment of a center of excellence. Now, hyperautomation covers a whole range of technologies. So you'll have within there artificial intelligence. You'll have in there event-driven software architecture. You will have within the RPA. You will have intelligent business process management. You'll have low-code/no-code tools. So basically, hyperautomation is what we are striving for when it comes to low code of any kind in a telecom sector. And the idea is to enable the developer to create anything they need within the shortest amount of time, securely, and achieving the efficiencies that the organization demands and requires.
Great. Thank you. So, Brian, from the T-Mobile perspective, as we think about this hyper-automation space, what were the key features of the Power Automate suite that helped in expediting the development of the bot?
So the Orbit application, which is the main intake and approvals tool for everything that's customer impacting, uh, was built natively on the Power Platform, Microsoft Power Platform, which has Power Automate, Power Apps, both model-driven and Canvas apps, and built on Dataverse as the backend, so we could leverage the complex security models. Because the legacy Sprint tools did not have APIs to directly access the database capabilities and to automate the processes, we actually initially started out with a manual process of tying that data over to the legacy systems, which proved very slow, a lot of errors, a lot of complexity and issues there. And that was right around the time that Microsoft Power Automate introduced the RPA tools, the Power Automate desktop, into production. And so we started using that. We worked with the engineering teams and got that up in a very short period of time. That paired with the digital process automation tools of the cloud flows in Power Automate and the rest of the platform, we were able to tie that together in really what is the essence of hyper automation as it's defined. So we were able to use all of those low code, no code tools to quickly spin up integrations, automate those processes, and apply complex logic to filter out what was sent downstream so that it was targeted audience, applied to the correct people, and all of our reports were synchronized and updated, and the data was reliable, so we could have a single source of truth. Would they be able to simplify a lot of the downstream processes as well by looking at the complex logic in the cloud flows, the digital process automation, so that we could target who items were assigned to, where they would be seen, and apply specific permissions to them as well, because there's a lot of dark initiatives, a lot of varied permission levels. So those were things that needed to be accomplished, which was a challenge with some of the other tools that we looked at. And we had no problems doing that because of the pairing of the different products and the stack of the products all working in one platform, the Power Platform, and working reliably and consistency.
Great, thank you. So Dave, I don't want to leave you out here. So Brian just discussed at length how the suite of features available in Power Automate accelerated the development. So how does process mining fit into the Power Automate set of features?
Process mining is all about discovering the opportunities for improvement across an organization, particularly when the process spans multiple systems and personas. So where Power Automate helps us solve problems, process mining helps us identify them. But it's actually much larger than just identifying a bottleneck. Process mining tends to lead to a cultural shift within an organization. And that's where we start to treat process data on the same level as operational or transactional data, meaning we build a metaphorical flywheel to continually monitor and improve the performance of an organization. Microsoft acquired Minit, one of the leaders of the space, back in March of 2022, and that accelerated our maturity across the first half of the flywheel. That's where we do discovery, map the process and the interactions. Also, we get some analytics and insights for things like root cause analysis, process conformance. But what's really exciting for us is that we can move very quickly on the second half of the flywheel. And that's where we make recommendations and take actions, or even transform operations. That's due to us being a true leader in process automation and application modernization. So from things like RPA, robotic process automation, DPA, digital process automation, low-code apps, and AI, we not only will help you identify the issues, now we will help you fix them. And not to mention, we deliver all of those insights through Power BI, which is also the undisputed leader when it comes to business intelligence. Even on the first half of the flywheel, we have a tremendous advantage because in an ideal world, all of those interactions would take place within the systems of record. But we know in the real world, so much of the actual work takes place in collaborative environments. So Teams, Outlook, Office, all of that data is also native to our cloud. And so over time, we'll be able to bring that data into the fold as well. And the map of the process will be so much closer to real life.
Thank you. So Brian, Dave just talked a lot about process mining and process analytics. As a seasoned professional in Six Sigma and process mining, how did that help you in the analysis of the process and the subsequent solution deployed?
Yeah, transitioning people from a manual process to an automated process, or really transitioning them from what they're doing now to something different is rarely quick and painless. There's always a lot of change management that has to be employed. You have to discuss with them, make them feel like they are part of that change is really key to adoption and support of that process. So we opted to build a solution using an agile approach. The solution being this automation between the two systems, and so we had teams both from T-Mobile and from Sprint that would work together to sort of map out what we were doing right now, what we needed to do in the future state to make that process reliable and consistent, not overly complex, but adequate so that they could do the reporting and get the information downstream that they needed to do their work. That agile approach, that working collaboratively to build a basic solution to synchronize certain key fields, and then build on that with more complexity, such as assigning permission layers or routing things to certain users, and we did that with the team in an iterative approach. And that helped them to take ownership of it and to adopt it better. And so it wasn't a T-Mobile saying, do this now. It was we are one company. We're coming together as one team to do things collaboratively and make a better process. The process mining tools also helped us to see how the processes were working, to analyze tools and processes to say, this is taking too long. This is going really efficiently. Here's where things are hitting a stop point, as well as bringing things into Power BI to really analyze those things and see where things were and how successful the integrations were to comparing the two systems, but also building really complex visualizations to simply look at what was going on and get that information within a few seconds instead of having to look over a ton of data. So that stack of automation tools and the Power Platform helped us to really simplify a lot of things.
Dave, I'm thinking, is there scope of the ultimate objective of this platform that's performing the process mining and then automatically moving to the development of an RPA bot just allows for a press of a button?
Our true scope is to speed up the entire flywheel in every vector. So we're introducing copilots that will help in the early stages of analysis. So you'll be able to identify bottlenecks and inefficiencies based on the process map, but then you can also use the copilots we have in Power Apps, Power Automate, Power Virtual Agents, and all the other ones across the entire platform to help automatically create solutions that will address the issues that were discovered. And while you specifically asked about RPA, remember, hyperautomation or automation at scale is much, much broader than just simulating a human at a keyboard and mouse. So we can cover the full gambit of automation, past, present, and future, by leveraging RPA, DPA, cloud-native, API-based integrations and workflows, plus AI and everything surrounding it, from apps, chatbots, analytics, and more.
Great. Awesome. Thank you. So, Brian, I'm curious, as you dealt with this initiative, did you implement any data analytics to help you assess how processes are being followed? The variance, bottlenecks, and then extracting that information to provide the necessary intelligence for the associated process improvement?
Yeah, absolutely. We were able to use the process mining tools and analytics to see how the process ran, where there were bottlenecks, where we needed to make improvements, as well as built reporting mechanisms and triggers to say when something happened. For instance, if something's taking too long, we built in processes to alert people to say this has been pending for over 5 days, and it needs to be escalated to a manager and to take action on it. So we didn't have things sitting out there. So we employed tools like Teams in Teams and approvals to alert people and say, yes, this is going well, or do we need to escalate this? Do we need to reassign this to somebody? And so we were able to use those tools to really move that into a systematic approach instead of just a lot of emails and information going around people were trying to track. As we moved away from a lot of the legacy reporting that was built into the existing Sprint tools into Power BI, we were able to get more robust reporting as well. So better visualizations, more targeted data for the audience, and really make sure that was so that we got information to users so that they could make a decision instead of just information to users so that they had information. So now people could go and they could move on from their job and do the task they needed to without having to learn what was going on and analyze things. The analysis was done in the tool and the output was the report. That really removed a lot of our issues with people spending a lot of time to go through simplifying processes. We moved from 20 different assignees for different initiative types down to 3 because we started looking at the process and who was the high volume and why we were accommodating all of these sort of outliers in the process.
Thank you. So, Dr. Basit, I'd like to bring you back in again. So, we're talking a lot about intelligent process automation and intelligent process improvement. From your perspective, are these two sides of the same coin? And if not, why not?
It's a very interesting question because intelligent process automation and intelligent process improvement actually sits on opposite sides of the table, with the digital footprint being the common element. Now, intelligent process automation combines process automation. And so you have process automation, the RPA or whatever is picking up the data points at each step of the process. And given a reasonable data set through which the process automation has gone through, you now have a typical data set for that process. And you can train that IPA, the intelligent process automation, not just based on case-based rules, but you can actually take that and even embed AI or machine learning. And so you can actually have intelligent process automation, which is not just rules-based, but it's actually intelligent based on the AI rules base. And so you can actually have the process automation learning from the data set as it goes down the path of the process automation from day 1 to day 20 to day 30 to month 1 to month 2. In a similar ilk, intelligent process improvement sits with the same data, but obviously it's got the timestamps. So for us, those of us who understand and have gone through process mining, we know that process mining is essentially that process with a timestamp, which tells us the route that the process has taken. And so you have the similar concept, which is that you have the data for that process and you have the timestamp. And so you can embed within that learning based on that data and the timestamp, embed that within an AI or an ML model, and go through the path of intelligent process improvement. It may be that the IPI, the intelligent process improvement, will highlight areas of bottlenecks automatically, or similar type of things, or variants that are now new. And I think it's a very exciting situation, or a very, very exciting future, where we look at intelligent process automation and intelligent process improvement.
Thank you. Interesting perspective and very insightful. We've come to the point in time where I'd like to go around the table and get final comments. So, Brian, I'll start with you. Brian, given your experience, if you were faced with the same use case, what, if anything, would you do differently?
I'm a big proponent of giving people the tools to drive their own change. A lot of Six Sigma and Lean, and that's kind of one of the fundamental principles. And so when we started with Power Automate Desktop, it was in early versions. There were still a lot of bugs that needed to be worked through. So I did a lot of the work as the developer. But where it's at now, I definitely would have pushed back on the process teams to sort of own that process a little bit more by developing the tools, teaching them the tools, and allowing them to work and to iterate through their own processes. Of course, we would have guidance and guardrails in place, which we do, which are really very nice in the platform and allow you to give people power without getting into trouble. Um, but definitely having that in place where they have self-service tools to grow those skill sets not only allows them to own the solution, but also gives them a new skill that they can do to look into other problems they have and solve other processes, other process bottlenecks along the path.
Well, I suspect, given today's business climate, you'll get opportunities to take some of these lessons learned and deploy them in future initiatives. Rody, final comments from you. So, in what way has the learning on mergers and acquisitions impacted Microsoft's approach to its Power Automate suite?
So, in my view, it's not just about mergers and acquisitions. If we abstract a level, I mean, M&A activity is an example of strategic events that happen at organizations, and strategic events will be different from organization to organization. It could be you're starting a new product line, or a new service motion, or you're facilitating a convention for your customers or partners. Like, for example, Microsoft has the Microsoft Power Conference happening in Las Vegas in October. And preparing for that conference, all the scheduling tools, sign up tools, people resources to work at the conference, the layout, all of that functionality needed for that specific conference was all built leveraging Power Platform tools, a one-time event, and so that's just another great example. How do you quickly spin up solutions to deliver value to the business? Microsoft's central mission is to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. Our Microsoft culture is that of a growth mindset where we are innovating, creating, and designing in a way that gives everyone the ability to achieve more. For our Power Platform suite, we continue to evolve, introducing new business value with the richest set of features, cloud database, which we call Dataverse, embedded AI that's coming at no charge, and over 1,000 pre-built premium connectors to the likes of Oracle and Salesforce and other big solutions that are out there in the market. Those connectors are automatically built into the solution and come with Power Platform. From a telecommunications company perspective, M&A is a thriving need to continually evolve the business or refocus the business in the direction it wants to move into. So as a result, firms in this sector find it strategically desirable to enter new markets by merging, acquiring, or forming an alliance with a firm that already has a presence in that market, or they want to add a new telecom type service, or they want to go into a new sales segment, for example. And that's where low code comes into play because it gives you that putty with all the features, all the resources necessary to shape that putty in the way that you need to drive business value for your organization.
And it's that flexibility that can apply to multiple different types of initiatives. And I also love hearing about the way that you're using some of the tools and techniques internally for increased efficiency. So thank you for that. Dave, final comments from you. I'm curious, do you see trends that merges kind of the process automation and process mining activities?
So it's inevitable, really. I mean, they are two sides to the same equation. I mean, we love the fact that we can help organizations and individuals improve the way they work through automation, but process mining introduces several new layers of maturity that can amplify the impacts of automation. So automation at scale is no longer something that just is a point in time solution, but this is going to be something enduring, something that we monitor and continuously improve. So our investments in automation shouldn't solely be based on hypothesis or just anecdotal evidence, but on real data. So ultimately, this is a single process improvement flywheel. And finally, we have capabilities to support the full set of process improvement activities on a single platform.
Thanks. And I have to say, I love the visual of the flywheel. I think it really pulls it together. So I appreciate that perspective there.
So Dave, your concept or your discussion about flywheel is really very, very intriguing. I'd like to sort of get more detail on it because there is an interesting similarity or parallel between the flywheel and the classical CRISP methodology, which is used in terms of developing AI and ML models in an organization. And we know that the CRISP methodology is about using it's about cross-functional, cross-departmental activities. So you have a business function who actually want a business optimization. The data sits with the IT team, the processor sits with other people. And you have a cross-functional team that actually needs to merge all of that together and develop and deliver those efficiencies for the business team. So I see a similarity between that and the flywheel. So could you give us some more detail on that and maybe some examples?
Great. So when we talk about the flywheel, this is actually based in principles from Six Sigma process improvement. It's nothing new, really. We first start on the first half of the flywheel where we want to define the challenge, the business challenges and the goals that we're setting out to achieve or fix. And then we go to measurement. And so when we're measuring the event, we're going to use data from the event logs of the backend systems that we use every single day. We can also layer in recordings for task mining of individuals who happen to be using those systems plus other processes. But then as the flywheel comes to the second half, that's where we're going to generate insights and use analytics to help us identify exactly what's going on and to have that continuous monitoring. Because as we come through the bottom half, we're improving on that process. And that's where we're going to implement hopefully low-code technologies to help us automate or create better experiences for the users that are in this process. And then finally, we want to control it. So we want to make sure that the continuous improvement and monitoring happens. The reason we say flywheel is because there's never really an end to it. It continues to go on and on. Just because we've automated a process, it's not just a point-in-time solution. We know the world is going to change around us. And so we need to be able to respond and constantly be looking at the execution and the performance of the process and all the processes across our organizations. And so that's where that concept of the flywheel comes in, is that it's just meant to be continuous, never ending, always spinning, always improving. We're just using new technologies now to help achieve what was done manually before.
So Brian, let's talk about how the process improvement has contributed to the successes of this mergers and acquisitions project.
Yeah, it's been really critical. The problem you have when you go into merging processes, you end up with a lot of redundancies. You end up with a lot of steps that are duplicative. And it's really easy to just say, do both these processes in parallel. And you typically have parallel resources and duplication of efforts. In our case, where we started out, we had two different systems that essentially did the same thing, and there was a lot of copy and paste back and forth. Where when you start looking at the process improvement to really see what's going on, those things stand out, right? You have these two people that are doing the same thing. Let's merge that into one role, or these tools that are doing the same thing. But you also get a comparative analysis between what was going on. So you can kind of look at, this is how one person's doing it, this is how another person's doing it, or this is how one tool does it and the other versus the other tool, and look for the opportunities in everything. If you have two different systems, maybe this one manages team members in a better way, and this one has a great note-taking timeline in it, like Dynamics, where you can see everything that's going on in a really simple timeline. And as you're merging those things, these are features that you maybe want to consolidate into your final product, your final tool.
Thank you. As you look back at the process and the success of the project, what are some key learning points that you've achieved that you'd like to pass on to others who find themselves with a similar project?
Yeah, I think one of the key things of key pieces of adoption is to allow people to have ownership in their process, to look at it and say, this is something that I did and I was involved with this decision. That's really key, especially when you have a merger. So it's not just somebody coming in and saying doing this differently. One of the ways to do that that's really great is to just take basic lean principles and have a class and teach them basic lean principles. So that way it's not just we're changing because of this. They see the opportunities of, here's why we're changing. We can save money, we can save time, we can make our jobs easier and better. And so doing that, I usually start a lot of my sessions off with a Rorschach and have everybody write down and say, what do you see in this ink plot? Then I read through them as a way to say, everybody is a culmination of their life experiences, and no two people, even twins, are going to have the same life experiences, which is why you bring teams together from different perspectives to look at this, because they're all going to see things from a different viewpoint. And that's just a sort of an illustrative way for everybody to see that and say, why are we all coming together instead of just one person saying, this is how we should do it.
And finally, Dr. Basit, you're going to get the last word, but you've got the biggest question. And the question is, what's the future of hyper automation?
Okay, so it should be well understood that hyper automation is here to stay. And not only is it here to stay, it is going to improve in terms of the technologies being used, and it's going to really help transform the operating processes of the organizations. And it's actually very, very exciting that there was a time when we had RPA. Now we have intelligent RPA, we have intelligent automation, and we're moving towards low code, no code tools. And now we're actually moving to a stage where we're actually trying to empower the developer to rapidly develop applications to achieve the processes and synergies, and to take it at the level where we're looking at this use case where we're targeting synergies that will aid mergers and acquisitions. So I think that hyperautomation is here to stay, and it's going to rapidly improve, and it is going to rapidly help organizations automate their processes.
Thank you. So with that, I'll wrap up this session. I want to thank our distinguished speakers, Brian, Rody, Dave, and Dr. Basit, for providing your insights. I'd also like to thank TIAC, the Telecoms Intelligent Automation Council, for arranging this vodcast. And I encourage you to reach out to TIAC if you'd like further information.